Hi everyone, welcome back for our next session 2 of May month. Since we finished our ray optics and wave optics, we will be starting with a new chapter and a few important topics under that. And our new topic is electrostatics. So, we'll be discussing about the charges in this chapter. We'll be also discussing about something which you already know, and it is called as Coulomb's law or a Coulomb's force. Then few new terms you will be learning in this chapter. You will be learning also something called as charging any given conductor by two methods. One is by the method of conduction and the other method is by method of induction, which you have done in your previous standard. I think you have done this in your grade 8th. So we will be doing these three topics, and with the help of these three topics we will be taking the chapter ahead. And it's very important chapter, electrostatics, because this chapter itself has a weightage of 8 to 10 marks. So it has derivations, numericals, and application questions. So we'll be focusing on all this, and I expect that you should carry some basic knowledge about the charges, the Coulomb's law, the force which exists between them. This is what you have learned in 8th standard. Conduction and induction, still I'll teach you, but not in much depth, thinking that you all know. So let's go ahead and start with a topic, electrostatics, in which you will be learning what is Coulomb's law. In that, first let us understand what is the difference between the conductors and insulators. Yes, anyone? Yes, I can hear. Jamna bhai, kids are always eager to give the answer. Take time. Conductors, free electrons. Insulators do not have free electrons. So, in this particular topic, we'll be discussing with respect to conductors, with respect to free electrons. But in free electrons, which are charges over here, two things to be noticed. One, such a charge is a mobile, that means it's moving, or such a charge which is static, at rest. So we'll be discussing on both of these, but at present we'll not be discussing anything with respect to this, because this you will be learning in current electricity. So we'll not be discussing for time being. We'll be focusing on the charges which are at rest, that's electrostatics. So when I discuss with respect to conductors, what is important to know is that these charges are on a conductor. Let's say that this is a solid sphere, a conductor A on an insulator stand and all that. So two things, these charges, let's say it's negative charges, they settle at the surface. So it's at surface. This phenomena is at surface. Whereas when I discuss with respect to current electricity, the charges move inside the conductor as well as at the surface. So we need to understand, and we'll be focusing about the charges at surface, and that's why it is called as electrostatics. Electro means electrons or the charges which produce electricity, and statics means at rest. So electrostatics. So let's come to the first quantity which you learn in this is the charge. So when I say charge, what is important to know is that what is the SI unit of charge. You all know the SI unit of charge is coulomb. Capital C or small c coulomb. This has a relation with the electric current. Electric current is I equals to Q by T. Now I equals to Q by T. Charge is measured in coulomb. Time is measured in seconds. So my current is SI unit is coulomb per second, or called as ampere. So how do we define now SI unit of current? This also you have done in 10th standard. How do we define the SI unit of current? Or define 1 ampere. So how do we define? When a charge of 1 coulomb flows for 1 second is called as 1 ampere. Simple. Let's move ahead with the next topic. These are all basic things which you already know. Let's go to the next topic called as quantization of electric charge. So when I say quantization of electric charge, what does it mean? It means that my charge cannot be in decimal or in fractions. That's very basic meaning of quantization of electric charge. Actually the definition says electric charge cannot be divided indefinitely. So if I have a charge as minus E, that indicates that it is not in the fraction, neither in the decimal. Or I can write E or 0 minus 2E or plus 2E. So it should be the integer multiple. My E, that's the charge, should be always the integral multiple. So if I look at E, this E is the smallest unit of charge and it is called as elementary charge. So E is my elementary charge. Next is conservation of electric charge. What is the meaning of conservation of electric charge? You have done this law of conservation of energy. Same thing follows here also, and it says that the total amount of charge in an isolated system remains constant. So actually it means that the charge can neither be created nor be destroyed, and this is called as law of conservation of charge. Next topic is electrostatic induction. The other meaning is that charging a conductor by induction method. So there are two methods of charging a body. One is by conduction method, the other one is by induction method. I'll just tell you in short what these two are. So let's say I have another method which is conduction method, and I have one which is induction method. In conduction method, two bodies are in direct contact. So whenever I want to charge any given body, my two bodies should be always in direct contact. Whereas if you look at induction method, my two bodies need not be in direct contact. So physically they are not in contact, and that's how the induction method is used to charge a given body. I'll just give you one example. How does the charging can be done by using induction method? Let's say that I have a spherical body, and we always have an insulator at this so that the charges should not move down as an earthing. So let's say that I have a metallic body here, and I charge this metallic body. Now how do we charge? We know that a metallic body has free electrons in that. Let's say I bring a charge rod close to this, and let's say that this charge rod is positively charged, which is already positively charged. So what happens is that the moment this rod, let's say, comes close to this, my negative charges due to force of attractions come closer to this, and the further end turns out to be the positive charges. This is my first thing. Let's say that now at this end I apply the earthing. The electrons from the earth will move to this and will get balanced. So what will be left over here later on is it's only the rod here with positive charges and the negative electrons, because they are already neutralized with the electrons. Now I remove this positive charge rod, so what will be left on this particular sphere is only the negative charges, and they will get uniformly distributed on the sphere. So this property of charging a given body is called as charging by induction method. Let's come to the next topic, and this is called as Coulomb's law. Now what is this Coulomb's law is? Coulomb's law basically explains with respect to charges. That means the force which is existing between the charges which are in nature. But when I say charges, Coulomb's law is true only for point charge, and it is not true for the large size charges. So very important. Now Coulomb's law is applicable only for point charges. So what does this Coulomb's law say is that two stationary point charges, let's say that I have two stationary point charges Q1 and Q2, which are at a distance of r from each other, then there will be either the force of attraction between them, or there will be the force of repulsion between them. And this force of attraction or force of repulsion between these two charges always depends on the charges and the distance between them. So this force will be directly proportional to the charges, and this force will be inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. So if I merge these both equation, I get this as F is directly proportional to Q1 into Q2 upon R square. We always notice that whenever we remove the constant of proportionality sign, there has to be some constant introduced when we remove proportionality sign. Since we have assumed these two charges in air or vacuum, that's the assumption that these charges are in air or vacuum, I can introduce the constant of proportionality over it, and there that will be, therefore F is equals to, it's 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into Q2 upon R square, and this is my equation of Coulomb's law. Whereas 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is my constant, and it is dimensional proportionality constant, which depends on units used for charges, distance and force. So since I already said this is true only for point charges, other condition is that this is true if the charges are static, not moving, they should be at rest. Otherwise you cannot apply this Coulomb's law over there. So you can write this particular equation in the form of vector also. Let's say that r cap is a unit vector, and this unit vector is in the direction of the force, that's the force of attraction or repulsion. I can write this in the vector form as F bar equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into Q2 upon R square of r cap. So this is my vector form of Coulomb's law. Can be also written if I know that my unit vector is equals to the vector upon the magnitude of that, which can be written as r bar upon r. So this is one way of writing it in vector form. There's another way in which I can write this in the vector form, and that is F bar equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into Q2 upon, I replace this r cap with r bar upon r. So r into r will be r cube, and this will be r bar. It's very important. This has been asked in boards for 1 mark. Write the expression of Coulomb's law in vector form. So either this or this. But if you write here r cube and you do not mention this vector r bar, then it's wrong. If you mention this as r cap, then also it's wrong. So you need to be very careful. By experimental method, it has been found out that the value of 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is 9.0 into 10 raised to 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb square. Whereas this is my constant, and this constant is called as epsilon naught or epsilon 0, which is also called as permittivity of free space. Very important to make you understand what is this meaning of permittivity of free space. So permittivity of free space, it says that how easily a medium gets charged. How easily a medium gets charged due to a charge which is placed in a given medium. It can be a single charge, it can be a group of charges, it may be placed in air, these charges can be placed in vacuum, it can be placed in a given medium also. So when I say epsilon naught, it means that how easily a medium, but when we say epsilon naught, this medium will be air or vacuum. If I place such a charge in a different medium, then there is a certain relation between them. So let's say that I do not place this in air or vacuum, and I place a charge in a given medium, then the force is represented as 1 upon 4 pi epsilon Q1 into Q2 upon R square. This epsilon indicates it's a permittivity of a given medium. So this is permittivity of a given medium. There is a relation between the epsilon and epsilon naught. Since I say that epsilon is the permittivity of a given medium, my epsilon will be always more than the epsilon naught, and the relation between epsilon and epsilon naught is my k, and k is nothing else but it's epsilon upon epsilon 0 or epsilon naught. This k is called as dielectric constant. This is dielectric constant. Also called as relative permittivity. Or specific inductive capacity. For all dielectrics, the value of k will be always more than 1 for all dielectrics. Now, what are these dielectrics? We will be discussing in the fourth topic. For time being, the value of k is more than 1 for all the dielectrics. That means leave aside air or vacuum and then all the other material medium. At home, your job is to go through the importance of Coulomb's law. This is your homework. You will go through the importance of Coulomb's law and also read the topic called as superposition principle, which you have done in waves. We finished that. Ray optics at wave optics. Keep practicing and go through this thoroughly. Our next subtopic is electric field. So when I say electric field, what do you come to know? Yes, very good. I got the answer. Jamnabai kids are so good. So, electric field is the field which is produced due to a charge. Any given charge will have some field around it, and this field is called as the electric field. But this is not the field what we discuss in electric current. This is the field due to a charge which is at rest, static. So such a charge which is static and producing the electric field around it. So let's say that I have a plus Q charge, a positive charge. Positive charge will always give a field lines in the outward direction. So these are the field lines. But if you know that plus Q charge is giving the field lines which are called as lines of force, these are electric lines of force. So these are electric lines of force. If you know very well, and I discuss with respect to just a small example, a magnet, we know that whatever the properties you learn in magnet, we know that the magnetic field inside the magnet flows from south to north, and outside it flows from north to south. So these are my lines of forces, but these are my magnetic lines of forces. I replace this magnet with a single charge, I will get the lines of forces around it. and these lines of forces will be called as electric lines of forces. So let's say that I have a charge, a Q. It will have some field around it. Either it will be having a field of attraction or it will be having a field of repulsion. That you come to know only when there is some charge which is placed around it. Let's say that it has a field up to a point A. I place some charge, let's say it's Q naught, and we call this Q naught as a test charge. And let's say that this Q is called as a source charge. This test charge will have some charge on it, but this charge is very, very small or negligible as compared to the source charge. So this test charge will not alter the field which is produced due to the source charge. So if I place this charge Q naught which is not inside the field, there will be no force of attraction or repulsion between them. In such a case, we say that this test charge is at infinite distance, or it's at infinity. Let's say that I bring this charge Q naught somewhere at near to point A, and let's say that this is my plus charge, and now source charge is plus. There will be some force of repulsion existing between them. Or if I take minus Q naught, then there will be some force of attraction existing between the source charge and the test charge. Now, this force which is existing due to the electric lines of forces or the electric field, so electric field E and the force which is produced between them, they have a relation between them, and the relation what you learn here is called as that intensity of the electric field, which is a vector quantity, is equals to F bar upon Q naught. That means the electric field intensity due to charge, that the source charge on a test charge. So E bar is equals to F bar upon Q naught, and the direction of this is in the direction of the force. So where there is a force, the direction of this electric field intensity is in the same direction. So what will be the SI unit of this electric field intensity? Force is measured in Newton, charge is measured in Coulomb, so Newton per Coulomb. It is also volt per meter, which you will learn later on, or also in the higher form, which again you will learn in the later part of the chapter. I am not disclosing now. So what will be the dimensions, or what will be the dimension of this electric field? This is your homework, and you know very well how to find the dimension. You have a formula, so I can write this as E is equals to F by Q, and try and find the dimensional formula for the electric field. Next is the electric field intensity due to a point charge. So if I find electric field intensity due to a point charge, so in this case they mean to say that if I have a point charge plus Q, which is a source charge at O, and there is a point P which is at a distance R, and we have a plus Q naught, a test charge at such a distance, then there will be a force which is existing between the source charge and the test charge, and that Coulomb's force we give as F is equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q into Q naught upon R square. I write this as 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught because I am taking this in a medium which is air or or a vacuum. If I change this field to a dielectric medium, I know the relation K is equals to epsilon upon epsilon naught. So I can replace the value of epsilon over here to get the correct answer. I also know that my electric field intensity E is equals to F upon Q naught. So if I substitute this value of F over here, I get this as 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. Q naught and Q naught will get cancelled. Q upon R square, which is Newton per Coulomb. So basically my E, that is the electric field intensity, depends on the source charge, and experimentally it has been found the value of 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is 9 into 10 raised to 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb square. Electric lines of forces. So when I say electric lines of force, every charge have some field lines around it, and that field lines are called as lines of forces. All the property what you learn with respect to the magnet and the field lines due to magnet, the same property is followed here also. So I suggest you will go through the properties of magnetic lines of forces which you have done in 8th or 9th standard, and come back prepared for our next session. But if I show you here, the electric fields of lines for a positive charge will be in the outward direction, and this question has been also asked in boards many a times. Draw a lines of forces for a positive charge. For negative charge, the lines of forces are always in the inward direction. So you need to know how to draw the diagram. If I have to draw the diagram for two charges, that is the two unlike charges, then the field lines will be something like this: positive going towards the negative. You should draw good number of curves here to show that how this happens. So this positive charge ka field line may not reach up to here, so therefore we will show something like this, and there will be some field lines which are interacting over here. Let's say that I have 2 point charges which are like point charge. There is another plus, so there will be force of repulsion between them. So what field line which is given out over here will not reach there, and it will be repelling like this. Can you see? They will repel with each other. So if the magnitude if the magnitude of these two charges is the same, there will be the force of repulsion which will be existing between them, and you have to draw few more such lines of forces to show that it's force of repulsion. Now what happens under such a case? This diagram is still incomplete because there will be no field lines in between, and this is called as the neutral point. This is my neutral point. There are no field lines over here. It is because two field lines equal in magnitude, opposite in direction, the net field line over there will be 0. So there will be no charges over there. Also you need to know the field lines for a lines of positive charges. So I have, let's say, positive charges over here, and what will be the field lines by this is, I take this as a parallel plates for example, and the field lines will be going parallel to each other. So very important, on both the sides the field lines will be traveling parallel to each other. If I take let's say a plate or the charges on them, and the charges are like this is positively charged and this is negatively charged, then the field lines will be something like this, but in between they will be parallel. So you need to know these diagrams very well. They have asked in exam many a times, draw the diagrams and all that, so you need to know this. Your homework is, you will find some properties based on lines of forces, and very important, you have to find the properties based on electric lines of forces, and which we'll be discussing afterwards. Thank you. Take care. God bless you. And keep revising. Bye bye. Have a nice day.